listening to the Casting for Fun podcast, the show that talks about entertainment, sports, music, and inspirational stories for all to enjoy. We're glad you could join us today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, here is your host, Albert Pineda.
Welcome, everybody, to the Casting for Fun podcast. I am your host, Albert Pineda. And for this week's episode, I have a really cool episode planned. I'm finally going to get to chat Cobra Kai. I've loved the show ever since it was initially launched on YouTube Red, which was YouTube's initial streaming service. It eventually obviously got purchased by Netflix, and it's been on Netflix from season 3 on. Season 5 just aired on Netflix a few weeks ago, and I got a chance to binge watch it twice. I mean, I loved it that much that I wanted to watch it twice. It's definitely my favorite streaming show available now, and if you're not checking it out, you absolutely should be. I think it's one of the best, maybe the best legacy sequel that's currently available for entertainment consumption right now. So I get to chat with a really cool dude, Nathan Wolfe, to talk about the show. He's a huge 80s aficionado. He loves everything 80s. So obviously he loves the Karate Kid trilogy and he loves the Cobra Kai show. So we got to chat about that. And I had a great time talking with him. He's a really cool, awesome guy. And I definitely would love to have Nathan on the show for future episodes because we have quite a bit in common. So he definitely fits in very well to the Casting for Fun podcast. And now I actually want to introduce a very special guest, my wonderful, amazing daughter, Avery. Avery, say hi.
Hi.
Okay, what line did you want to say for the listeners?
Copacabana.
Awesome. Say it one more time louder. One more time louder.
Copacabana.
Yes, thank you. So this is the Cobra Kai Never Dies episode of the Casting for Fun podcast with Nathan Wolfe. Thanks, everybody. Joining me now on the Casting for Fun podcast is a really cool, awesome dude, Nathan Wolfe. Nathan, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing very great too. Great. It's great to have you on the show. And like we were just discussing off the recording, that we've essentially become friends over the internet because we met just previously once before, but we have so much in common. So if you're down, I definitely would love to have you on for additional conversations of topics. I think it'd be really cool.
Well, hopefully this goes all right tonight, but I think it will. So.
Yeah, absolutely will. Yeah. So cool, man. I'm always excited to hear that other people love the Cobra Kai show. I mean, I've enjoyed it so much. It's been so great for me. And then I know just getting to know you over the internet, I know you're a huge fan of 80s movies, stuff like that. Like, in fact, your email's Tron. So there you go.
Yes. After the movie, Yeah. I was obsessed with the movie Tron in high school. So that shows you how popular I was in high school. So
yeah. Oh, very cool, man. Well, you're definitely here in the right place for the Casting for Fun podcast because along with sports, which I know isn't necessarily one of your favorite topics, we talk about geek stuff all the time. So correct.
I mean, I'll watch sports, but I just don't really care for them. But I mean, it's funny that, kind of video games and pop culture and sports has always been this like very opposite sides. But I always thought they were like, you're geeking about stats or player knowledge, and it's all the same thing to me. I mean, it's just, one was more accepted 10 20 years ago, but now it's all kind of mixed in. So
absolutely. I know, just really quickly, they talk about how popular fantasy football is, and I play fantasy football. It's pretty fun. Yeah. But it's Dungeons and Dragons for jocks, because like you said, you do a lot of the stats, like with the points that players are scoring. It's almost like the exact same thing of hit points for characters. And
don't you draft players?
Yeah.
See, I play Magic the Gathering, and I do a Magic draft where, you pick a card and pass it to your left and you make a deck out of it. And it sounds very similar where you just pick players, pass one on, and then you build a team. So
they're basically the same thing. So very cool. So going back to 80s movies, I mean, yes, that was the heyday for the Karate Kid trilogy. So all three were released from 84 to 86 to 89. I'm old enough that I got to see part 3 in theaters when I was only 9 years old, which was really cool. So I wanted to ask you of your experience watching the Karate Kid trilogy for the first time, and what resonated with you, maybe with the story of Daniel LaRusso.
Okay, I have so I grew up watching the first one a lot and the second one a good amount, but I have a confession to make. I didn't see part 3 until college. I know it was kind of late, and I don't know why. Like my brother, I have 3 older brothers, and yeah, we just never watched the third one growing up. But it was midnight one night in college, and I couldn't sleep, and I think it was on Netflix. I'm like, I'm gonna watch part 3, and I loved it. And I made a top 10 movie villain list in college, and Terry Silver was on there because I just thought he was a great movie villain. But going back, I just always loved the Karate Kid. I know now it's become, it's kind of like a meme or joke that Daniel was the real enemy in the movies, but I never, even looking at that, I'm like, he did deserve some of this stuff, but I mean, Johnny, like, like him and his friends like drove him off a cliff on his bike, like
Yeah.
that's like, I'm like, I don't care what Daniel did. I don't think he deserved to like almost be killed, but
Yeah, really.
but no, I always loved the Karate Kid. I just it's kind of like the same director did Rocky, but I thought Karate Kid was just more for younger kids and more kind of more relatable type of thing. So because I mean if you're lucky you didn't get picked on, but a lot of people deal with bullying and getting picked on and things like that, and it's just kind of cool to see some scrawny kid kind of build up his confidence and learn from Mr. Miyagi, who's one of the greatest movie characters ever. And I grew up loving it and still watch the first one every other, seems like every other year I rewatch it. So
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree with you, man. In fact, it's interesting you bring up Mr. Miyagi. I mean, it's really cool that you can go back and rewatch, especially the first one, with the teachings that he's giving Daniel. It's like on par with like all the stuff that like Yoda is teaching teaching Luke in Empire Strikes Back. So I would actually put them on the same level, Yoda and Miyagi, as far as like mentorship.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I definitely agree. So.
And we'll come back to Terry Silver. I definitely want to talk about that. I agree with you. He's definitely one of the most compelling villains in all of cinema. So we see like in this recent era, like legacy sequels, I guess, as if you want to call them that, have become really popular. So you've gotten like, Creed, the movie Creed. So Apollo Creed's son, played by Michael C. Jordan, being trained by an older Sylvester Stallone as Rocky. Bill and Ted Face the Music. And then just recently, Top Gun Maverick. Obviously, Cobra Kai falls into that category as well, taking place 30 years after Daniel and Johnny had their initial karate match. So do you like the idea of legacy sequels? I mean, and if you do, is there any that you'd like to see now? Maybe something that could be revisited with the original cast, if you can get as many of them back as possible. Like Ghostbusters Afterlife's another great example.
Yes. And also one I think you can add to that is The Force Awakens. So do I like them? I think if they're done well, I mean, that's kind of like a obvious answer, like, oh, if a movie's done well, you'll like it. But I think a lot of times, maybe they do a kind of cash grab, or, like, let's just use this movie title and, like kind of just, shove some of the old actors at the audience and people will pay to see it. But I think, with this, I think the creators really loved Karate Kid, and I think you gotta have someone who respects the original material, and maybe has a good knowledge of it. So I think for the most part, I like them. I'm trying to think of any I can't really think of any that I didn't like. I like Maverick. Actually, I don't care for the original Top Gun very much. I think it's a little overrated personally, but I thought Maverick was an excellent movie. I thought it was just a really well done movie with the original cast. So I have it's a bit of a deep cut, but I mean, in the cult classic circles, it's not. But I think Monster Squad would be a good one. I don't know if you ever watched that growing up.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen posts about it. Is that the one where like they kick the Wolfman in the nards and the Wolfman's got nards? I've heard that's kind of funny.
So I used to rent that movie all the time growing up, and it's hard to recommend. I really love the movie, but it's hard to recommend because it's a very unbalanced movie. It's got it's very dark, but then it's also trying to be like a kid's family movie, but it's like so just the tone is kind of up and down, and I think if they kind of redid that but with original cast, and it was written by Shane Black, who directed Iron Man 3,
Oh yeah,
Nice Guys, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, I think he directed that.
yeah.
But and he was in the original Predators movie as well. He was an actor in that. So yeah, I'd like to see Monster Squad, because I just like the classic monsters, kind of redesigned, but I think they can kind of improve on the original movie. But I don't know if it's a big enough name, to have a studio behind it, put money in it. But that's one I'd like to see.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, and it could be revitalized. I mean, maybe new fans who hadn't seen the original will see this one if they do it. You never know. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have one in mind that you would like to see?
No, that's a good question. I should have thought one. I mean, because most of the ones that I wanted to see have been done. I mean, Cobra Kai was definitely the one I would have picked beforehand. Trying to think. I tell this to people all the time that my personal favorite comedy of all time is Three Amigos.
Okay.
And so I just love Steve Martin. I love Martin Short. I love Chevy Chase. And then and there's a Hulu show that my wife and I have been checking out called Only Murders in the Building. There's Steve Martin.
I've heard good things about that.
And I'm sorry, Martin Short and Steve Martin. It's just missing Chevy Chase from being a full-on like Three Amigos reunion. If they were to do something like that, where they could, just go maybe, I guess, like 40 or 50 years past when Three Amigos initially took place, so that would put them in the 50s, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it could be just wishful thinking on my part, but I just absolutely love that comedy. So
it has one of my favorite lines in a movie is when Chevy Chase asks, "Do you have anything besides Mexican food?"
Oh, that's so funny.
It's very simple and to the point, but it's just his delivery and just how oblivious they are in that movie it just cracks me up every time. So
yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. So here we are, Cobra Kai. I mean, as soon as I heard the news, I was really, really excited. Just the whole concept that they were going to revisit it. I watched the original trilogy all the time. Absolutely loved it. Loved the underdog story for Daniel LaRusso. And then when I heard that it was going to kind of focus a little bit more on Johnny, I thought that was really intriguing too. So what I wanted to ask you is, we're also going to jump into massive spoilers for season 5 and basically anything that's happened in Cobra Kai to this point for the listeners, so they're aware of that. Were there any particular storylines or aspects of the show that you were particularly interested in seeing before we got to season 5? So like say, or instances where they brought back a certain character or a plot line you wanted to see revisited with the Cobra Kai show.
Before the first season, is that what you're talking about?
I mean kind of, I guess maybe from the past 4 seasons that we got before we get into season 5.
So I think I loved how season 5 might be my favorite. Season 2 I felt was the roughest because it was just like a lot of low points for the characters, and I just it's like you just want everyone to get along and like stop fighting each other, and it's like I know they'd all be friends if they just sat down and talked to each other, and work things out, or hash things out as Johnny did with Miguel and Robbie in the season. But I was really looking for I was looking forward to kind of where Tori was going to go with her character in this season, because at the end of season 4 she had the conflict of finding out that she didn't technically win her championship, and I really loved her story arc a lot in this season. I thought she was one of the is most paid off and growth for a character in this season. So I was really looking for something with her, and I more spoilers. I didn't know that they'd bring back more characters from Karate Kid Part 3. That was a surprise to me. It's just like something I didn't think about. I should have. It seems obvious now, but I didn't think of it at the time. But
oh, absolutely, yeah, totally agree. I agree with Tori's story arc. In fact, looking back to season 2, I found her really like detestable. I was like, oh, I can't stand Tori. She's horrible. Yes. But as the seasons progress, especially in season 4, where we learn more about her home life, and then where
Mhm.
Amanda LaRusso is actually like, taking pity on her, trying to like, help her with her situation. I think she becomes a more relatable and likable character. And in season 5, her arc, I think, is really impressive, really good. But yeah, so from season 2, the episode I really enjoy, and I think I agree with you, even though I love the show, season 2 maybe like my least favorite of the 5 seasons, but the episode when Johnny gets reunited with the other Cobra Kais and get to see where they are in life, it's really cool. In fact, I don't have his name in my notes, but the guy
the actor that passed away.
who passed away in real life, I'm glad that they were able to get him on, even if it's just for that one episode. And I mean, obviously he looked really poor in health in that episode, so I'm grateful they were able to do that. But to see their dynamic and where they are in life, and them trying to warn Johnny about Kreese, like, Kreese is bad news. You really shouldn't be having him back in your life. It was really cool to see that. It was kind of interesting to note that Chad McQueen, who played Dutch, he was the only Cobra Kai missing. He was actually the son of Hollywood legend Steve McQueen. I didn't know that before.
Oh, okay.
So that Cobra Kai, I mean, the reuniting of the Cobra Kais was really cool from season 2. That was definitely one of
that was a good kind of story arc for Johnny and him, just kind of getting to see other points of view of Kreese instead of like him fighting with himself. Of what's Kreese's ultimate goal? Him trying to separate, because I'm sure he has a lot of feelings towards Kreese, or at least did. As far as a mentor. And so it was good to have others around him that kind of, point in the right direction. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's jump into some season 5 talk, going back to Terry Silver. So I totally agree with you. I think he's an excellent, amazing villain. Thomas Ian Griffin. My understanding was he's one of the few cast members who actually had background in martial arts. I think he had a black belt on Taekwondo.
Oh, really?
So you can see, like, with his kicks and like, his movements, it looks really precise, really cool, even at his older age. So that is pretty cool to see, I thought. So I guess if you can dive in a little more deeper, like, what would make Terry Silver such a compelling villain in your mind?
I really like that he's good. He's really good at manipulating Daniel, but not being obvious about it. He almost lets Daniel be his own worst enemy, if that makes sense. Like, he'll just kind of suggest things or say things, and then Daniel like gets all heightened and kind of freaks out, and rightfully so, knowing his background with Terry Silver. He they talked about that in the season, how he kind of just never really recovered from kind of the how Terry Silver messed up his mind, basically, and like his way of thinking. And but Terry Silver is just really good at kind of just prodding a little bit, but not like obvious. That it's hard to describe what makes him so compelling and good, but it's just he does there's little subtleties in the way he says things and what he says, and then he kind of just steps back, let Daniel build things up in his mind or overthink things, or like it's like I got to do something to stop him, and him driving the force, and Terry Silver just kind of stands back to play victim, or to Daniel's attacks. And when Terry technically, he did stuff to Daniel in season 5, for the first part, but there's a lot of Daniel just trying to get ahead of him, but going about it the wrong way. So
oh yeah, it's like, I mean, when you can like convince someone to almost like play against themselves, which is I think what Terry had done to Daniel.
Yeah,
where like, I mean, like he had convinced Daniel in his mind that he was saying terrible things about his wife, where he didn't say anything, but still got him to like freak out about it.
Yeah.
And then the manipulation, like you talked about, I think Silver's doing a great job with that on Kenny, one of the new Cobra Kai recruits.
Yes.
Almost like the same way, I think. So it's actually been really compelling to see that. And I love his little like evil like symphony musical piece that goes along with him. I think it's a little more sinister too.
Yes. They did a great job with him. Is really good. So.
Mm-hmm. And then going back to character return, so we get to see Chosen return to the fold, which is really cool. In fact, going back to discussing, the original trilogy, watching it all those years, I never would have thought that there'd ever be any type of like show or movie where we're going to get to see Chosen and Johnny together, like two of Daniel's.
Oh yeah.
And throw in Mike Barnes as well. So
Yeah.
So what do you think of the character arc we're seeing with Chosen in season 5?
I really like it. Yeah, back watching part 2, like you said, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, because part 1 and part 2, they're totally separate movies besides, the two main characters. And I mean, it's been a while since I've seen part 2. I can't even remember if Daniel's mom is in part 2, maybe at the beginning. But yeah, the interactions with Chosen and Johnny are really great in this season. And it's just really cool to see Chosen and Daniel become really good friends. Like Daniel has him stay at his house. And it's one thing about Daniel that always like bugs me is like did he not tell his wife that he was letting Chosen stay there? Like I mean, his poor wife, I think she puts up with a lot with Daniel. And but it was nice for this season she kind of got to got a better understanding of where he was coming from with his past. But no, yeah, Chosen's his arc has been really sweet, with just him wanting to kind of like make amends for what he did in part 2 and things like that, and really grow as a person. And he's always he's always wanting to be on alert and always heightened and things like that. So doesn't want to ever let his guard down, besides the one episode. But
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, so the actor's name, Yuji Yukumoto, if I'm saying it right, I think I am.
Yes.
I think he did a really great job of portraying the character. I mean, because he's kind of got the lovable kind of like funny character side of him, but then also the really scary, like dark assassin that's in him too.
Yes.
So those scenes that he has when he's like confronting Silver are really intense. But then he's also got that really playful kind of fun aspect to his character too. So I thought he did a great job with the character.
And I think, have you seen the movie Better Off Dead?
Better Off Dead. That's with John Cusack. Yeah, John Cusack. Yeah.
Okay, I think he plays one of there's two Japanese brothers that always want to race John Cusack, and I think he plays one of them.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, he only speaks Howard Cosell from watching the Worldwide of Sports. But anyways, that's off topic. But he's just a really cool actor. So
yeah, very cool. And like you mentioned, we get to see returns from Cobra Kai. I'm sorry, Karate Kid 3 characters. So Mike Barnes, Sean Kanan, and Jessica Andrews, who's played by Robin Lively, who's I guess Blake Lively's half sister.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. In fact, there was a little bit of a deep cut too that I thought was kind of interesting. So in Karate Kid 3, she mentions to Daniel that her ex-boyfriend from back home in Ohio had, I guess, like left her and went with a girl named Elizabeth Ann Rooney. But then they were able to patch things up. And then obviously we find out that Jessica had put her cousin Amanda in touch with Daniel, and that's how they got married. Yeah. But anyways, Elizabeth Ann Rooney is the name of the character who picks the bar fight with Amanda and Jessica.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a deep cut, like a really minor character we never had before, but it was the same name. I actually read it online that the like you mentioned, the writers and producers are taking such good care of the show, like paying attention to the small details like that, where they can pick something random, obscure, and actually insert it into the new show, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I never realized that. That's interesting. Was that the first time that they mentioned of how her and Daniel?
Yeah. So, but before season 5, we had no idea that Jessica Andrews' character was related to Daniel now through marriage, having married her cousin. Okay.
I was just like, I wonder, was that mentioned in a previous season and I forgot? But okay, that's good.
So that is pretty cool. Yeah. But going back to the story arcs then. So with the kids, I mean, obviously it's kind of cool that we get to see the legacy characters, as it were, get their stories, examined or have their stories continue on. So Daniel and Johnny, but now we're introduced to, in Cobra Kai, their kids. So with the story arcs going on with Sam and Robbie, and also Miguel, Tori, Hawk, and Kenny, Were there anything that stood out for any of those, like for the kids, as far as story arcs go?
And maybe it wasn't like a major, but I really liked Hawk's story arc a lot. He's coming off that win from season 4, and then he loses to Kenny in the, I don't know what you call it, the fight to determine which dojo is going to go to. Sorry, my mind's slipping up what the name of the tournament is, but the kind of bigger tournament,
Saki, something like that. Yeah.
And he ends up losing to him because Terry Silver taught Kenny some of his legal but kind of dirty moves. And I'm like, is Hawk gonna get like his ego broken and kind of it gonna really mess with him? But he kind of just like, he's just like, I had a loss, it happened, and I'm moving on. And I'm like, oh, it's really good to see that not only are the characters they had previous arcs in other seasons, but that they're staying true to those arcs and learning from past season experiences and things like that. So I was really like that story arc for him. And also, like I mentioned, Tori just kind of her and Kreese are trying to do other things with Silver, but I'm really happy that she came through at the end and kind of spilt the beans and decided for herself that she can be a mean person, and she's very defensive, and she has reason to be, because she has to be tough in order to survive the kind of life that she's had. But I'm glad that she is not too close-minded to not realize when things are worse than if her self-worth is not worth risking losing for Terry Silver and his dojo to make him happy. So
no, absolutely,
those two for the kids I've stood out to me, and I enjoyed the most. So
oh, very cool. Yeah, I definitely agree with those arcs. I mean, we get to see, Hawk kind of like rediscover himself. We got to see a lot of that in season 4 when he got ambushed by the Cobra Kai guys and they shaved off his mohawk. Almost had to regain his confidence. We didn't get to see much of Dimitri, but I really like his character. His character is really fun.
Yes.
But in season 5, we barely saw him as much.
No, yeah, that's true. I didn't really think about that. But he had a good previous story arc or season arc in 4. So.
Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned before about if the kids actually just sat down and talked it out, hashed it out their problems, we get to finally see a resolution. So it was cool that we did get to see a resolution for Miguel and Robbie, which was cool.
Yes.
I would say though, I don't know if Miguel's dad's really going to play that much of a factor, and maybe it might in the future, but I kind of felt a little distracting, I thought. But I guess they gotta have to explain why he give him something for him to do in the beginning of season 5.
Yeah, I thought that was maybe the weakest part of the season was and I was trying to, I'm like, because sometimes you blink and you'll miss something. Did they ever say that? Because I know he never really found out 100%. Was that his dad? Or I guess it finally eventually was, but he always heard oh, someone, was his name Hector, and he heard someone talking about him, like is that for sure your dad this time? Kind of a thing. And then also it just kind of the episode ended and he decided to come home, type of thing. So I thought that was a little weak for Miguel, but just for for his just like you said, kind of give him something to do in the first episode. But yeah, that's probably my one complaint about it, is just it didn't seem relevant to the overall story, but maybe it have more relevancy in the next season. Who knows? So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. In fact, I think it was kind of just implied that, or if I remember correctly, I think they mentioned something or Hector mentioned that he had a relationship with a woman from Ecuador. So my guess is that would have been obviously
okay. A lot of key points that were pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, so obviously Miguel made the connection, but as far as we know now, Hector still hasn't. So he doesn't know that the whole time, if in fact Miguel was his son. My guess is it probably is, but we'll see if it even gets revisited in the future. If they decide not to, I don't think I'll miss it. But
yeah,
but
I'm like, that's fine. So
yeah. And then just really quickly, since we haven't touched on her yet, just on Sam. I mean, I love Sam's character. I think she's been really great. And then it's been kind of see her overcome the traumatic experience from the high school fight, which again, season 2 may not be like my favorite season, but I love the finale. It was so cool to see everybody throw down at the high school to fight like that. But
that finale was like a whirlwind of emotions. I was just like, at first I'm like, are there no adults at the school? Like there's this fight's going on for so long, and
and then one adult who does try to intercede, he gets his butt kicked too. So
that's true. And then Stingray doesn't help out with that either. So
but so obviously it was a really traumatic experience for Sam. We see the aftermath of that in season 3, and then after season 4, when she thought she had lost the tournament and was feeling guilty about that, we got to see her, I guess, come to terms with that as well. So Sam's story arc, I think, throughout the whole show has been really good as well.
Yeah, and I like in season 5 how she kind of finally, I think she's just like always been like, I don't want to, kind of focus on letting other people down, her parents, or like, and I'm pretty sure Daniel says this to her. He's like, no, you're doing this for you. Like, don't. I'm fine if you don't fight. Only do it because it's something that you feel like you need to do. And it's like, I'm glad that she's finally, kind of realizing that, maybe that's something that all kids, it's been so long since I was a teenager, but, kids kind of like struggle with like, oh, I want to keep my parents happy, make them proud. It's like, you're all, it's like, I got to do one school because they need, like you're always kind of thinking, maybe your parents do put expectations on you, but you're also putting expectations on yourself, in the name of your parents. And it's just, it can be a hard thing to kind of find yourself with that struggle.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Anything else with the kids that you wanted to bring up or discuss?
One thing I wanted to ask you, who do you think, okay, I know like at the end they had the 3 guys to pick from. Who do you think is the best fighter of, Robbie, Miguel, Hawk?
Oh, that's a really great question. I know it's all subjective because again, it's a story, but you're right. Based on what we see, to be honest, I actually, even though he's the only one that hasn't won an All Valley championship, I think Robbie's actually the best of the 3.
See, I think Miguel is.
Really? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. I love that. I mean, Robbie has the most, I think, technique or learning from Miyagi-Do. So I think that the best on defense. He's learned certain from Daniel, but then at the same time, I mean, he's picked up some good stuff from Cobra Kai as well. I know it's so difficult to really gauge for sure, but I liked in season 4 where we got to see how the Cobra Kai fighters were evolving once they started learning Miyagi-Do technique.
Yes, that was
up
really
too.
Cool.
So
but I think that's just I'm like, oh, who would you put your money on?
So I think having a great understanding of both techniques, I think, would make you pretty formidable. And if that's the case, I think my opinion is that Robbie has the best from both worlds between the 3 fighters. But it could go either way. I mean, and like I said, I mean, Robbie's technically the only one who's not an All Valley champ. So
yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
And that's all I had about the kids. But
oh, perfect. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about deepfake technology. I mean, I know you mentioned you've listened to previous episodes of the show, and I don't know if you had a chance to listen to my Star Wars conversation with my brother Fernando. I know my brother Fernando's really good friends with your brother TJ, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think they're about the same age, if I remember. But yeah, I've hung out with Fernando a couple times.
Oh, cool.
Because TJ, him and Jason Smith were like really good friends, and Fernando I think was in the same ward as my brother Danny and maybe my brother Ryan as well.
Very cool.
I've hung out with Fernando a couple times. I mean, not one-on-one, but just in the group.
Well, yeah. So on the Star Wars themed episodes, I got to ask him and some of my other friends about the deepfake technology to recreate Luke Skywalker for both The Mandalorian and for the Book of Boba Fett. And we've gotten to see that it's been used several times in movies, sometimes to really great effect, maybe sometimes to not so great. Going back to Tron, I don't know if you you mentioned you love Tron, the
I was
original.
going to mention, I think that was one of the first times that it was used was in Tron Legacy.
Yeah. So I mean, it was cool to see like a younger version of Jeff Bridges, but at the same time, it looked a little off to me. So I mean, it was early in its infancy, so I can understand that technology would be better today. So we got to see in Cobra Kai they used the deepfake technology to create a younger version of William Zabka as he would have looked as a teenager back in 1984 for the original Karate Kid, for that sequence when he's chatting with Kreese.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering for you, did you like that sequence, and do you like the idea of deepfake technology?
To be honest, I don't. Okay, I think I'm okay. I'll just say I'm not a big fan of it because you can always tell that it's not the person. I mean, I know it's like even even if you showed someone that has never seen the original Karate Kid, and it's I bet they would be like, why that person? I mean, you could just tell it's kind of CG, and it just looks out of place. So I'm not usually a big fan of it. I thought the one time it looked fairly really good is in, I haven't watched Obi-Wan or Book of Boba Fett, but I did watch both seasons of Mandalorian. It was at the end of spoiler alert for, I mean, this is all spoilers. So it was at the end of season 2 where Luke shows up, right?
Yeah.
I thought that looked really well. It was really well done. That was like and then was it Rogue One? They used Carrie Fisher and what's his name?
Peter Cushing.
Peter Cushing, yeah. I thought Peter Cushing looked both of those look pretty good. Obviously you can still tell that something was done, but and then also in Guardians 2 with Ego, I thought that was pretty well done. For the young Kurt Russell. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of it just because it kind of takes you out of it, because now you're like, instead of listening or focusing on what they're talking about or the story, you're like, oh, that doesn't look good. Just like kind of just set your mind out of it for a second, even if it could be a few seconds. So I'm not usually the biggest fan of it, but.
Okay, that's fair. That's understandable. Personally, I enjoy it, but I do understand your point of view on it. And there's a part of me that as soon as I saw it, I mean, I loved it, thought it was really cool. And also thinking, it'd be really, really cool if they could do something like that for Pat Morita to somehow incorporate Mr. Miyagi back into the show. But at the same time, I'm thinking, for fan service, that would be awesome and great. But I don't know if they really need to. So I had to understand from like the practical filmmaking aspect of it. Like, do they really need a scene that we've never seen before? Because I think they have used existing footage from the movies to with Pat Morita to kind of convey like a teaching they wanted to revisit, a teaching that he had taught Daniel back in the day, and how that would apply today to his current situation, like learning a balance in your life, going back to the first season of Cobra Kai. So I guess I'd be cool either way, but I always love getting other opinions from people to think what they think of deepfake technology, because to be honest, I don't think it's going away. I think we're actually going to probably see more of it, to be honest.
Yeah, if it gets better looking and less obvious, and also with using people that are deceased, it's always, you gotta, I hope they talk to the family and get their and blessing with everything. Another spoiler, you saw Ghostbusters?
Oh, I did, yeah. Afterlife, yeah.
I assume so. That was probably my favorite way it was done. I like that they didn't have Harold Ramis talk. That, I think that helps, because sometimes you get people that are, or your, CG mouth moving can look off, or if you get someone who's trying to impersonate, someone, it's like I'm so familiar with this person's voice that, like I said before, it kind of just takes me out of it for a second. But I really like that they didn't have him say anything, and you just saw him, being a Ghostbuster silently, and that movie was really touching. Had me teared up. So,
oh, me too. I thought it was excellent. I personally never saw the female Ghostbuster one. It didn't really interest me that much. Maybe I'll someday go back and revisit it, but I'm grateful that they did the Afterlife, and that it looks like there's going to be additional movies too.
Yeah, I saw it. I would love a good all-female cast Ghostbusters, but it was just, it just seemed like they were all trying to out funny each other like
Mm.
constantly, and it just
Uh-huh.
like became kind of annoying. And
Yeah.
it like it, they need someone to kind of pull the reins back on. It's like you got these top female comedians and they're improvising, off the rails, and it's like, all right, let's just bring it back a bit, and like, we know you guys are funny, but they're just trying to like one up each other the whole movie, and it just But anyways, I could. Ghostbusters is one of my top three favorite movies. It always goes back and forth between three different movies. So I mean, if you ever do a Ghostbusters podcast,
Oh, I definitely want to, and you're definitely my guy when I do.
Okay.
It. Very cool, man. Very cool. So going back to Cobra Kai, I want to talk about the finale now. So it was actually kind of interesting when I first saw it. I actually thought for a second that they actually killed Kreese. I mean, I thought that would have been a good ending for him to actually get stabbed to death and die like alone right there. So I don't know. I don't know if I really liked it so much that he would fake it in order to escape, because now that they've again, spoilers, they've actually found out the truth of what Terry Silver had done, and now he's being arrested, and Stingray's recanted on his initial statement. My guess is Kreese was probably going to get released anyway, so I don't know if he needs to escape.
I didn't think about that point, but yeah, you just need to be, wait another day or two, and
Yeah, so to me, it seems like in the real world, I mean, obviously it's a fictional TV show, so it's not the real world, but there would be ramifications for him to have to deal with for escaping from prison. So
and I'm sure
I don't know if they'll address that, and it just seems to me that for season 6, Kreese would go back to being the big villain, and then he'll probably maybe realign with I forget her name, but like the granddaughter of their sensei, the Kim Soo Young.
Yeah.
So the actress who was playing her, my guess is that, I mean, she probably doesn't really care so much of who she's working with as long as her family gets their legacy. So that's what I probably would suspect. So I guess I just wanted to ask your opinion. Well, how was your opinion on how the show ended, and where do you think we might go into season 6 and beyond?
I really liked the ending. I liked, I liked everyone. It's like they all start off as like, I'm talking about the kids around, but they all start off as kind of enemies, and some are friends, and then they kind of switch sides, and the couple seasons leading up, and with Robbie going to Cobra Kai, then coming to his senses. So I love seeing them all work together. And speaking of which, the whole protect the egg analogy or scenario, I like that was cool seeing that come back. And like when I'm watching this, I don't think I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. Like I wonder if they'll use that again. I just kind of like, oh, that's just one of his teaching techniques. That's that's cool, and I kind of forget about it. And so it was nice to see that circled back. So I like seeing all the kids, at least. And I don't know about Kenny. I think he's still it's gonna take a while for him to come back. But I like them all working together. I liked that Daniel had a great arc, and that he was able to kind of work through his Terry Silver issues and things like that. And it was really cool when Johnny kind of like got his second breath from thinking about his, current family and future family. That was really cool to see. I like that Terry Silver got his, I love him as a villain, but you always like to see your villains kind of get theirs in the end.
Yeah.
At some point. So it was really cool with that. And I'm glad, we get more of Chosen. So I know that was a little ambiguous, but I was like, they can't kill off Chosen. I mean, he's too likable, and I want to see more of him and Johnny, because it's just a interesting duo that you wouldn't expect. So.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But as far as for season 6, I really like your point about Kreese working with the guy's granddaughter. I can't remember her name, and I would butcher it even if I did remember it. But yeah, that'd be. I didn't think about that at the time of watching, but that would be really cool. I'm trying. My wife, she's like, I'm just waiting for Hilary Swank to come into the next season. So, and I'm like, you never know. So I mean, they could, because I think it was the next Karate Kid was that one. I don't even know if that's in the same. I mean, I know Miyagi did teach her. I never saw the movie, but I know Miyagi did teach her. So, and you never know, that could be a possibility. We could see Hillary Swank in the next season or 2 seasons. I don't. Did they say how long they're renewed for or anything like that? Have you?
I think well, what I've read is that the writers and producers have ideas, and they're working on season 6. I don't think it's been officially picked up on by Netflix yet, but considering the massive ratings it did, it would be like a no-brainer. Yes, pick up season 6 for sure. But like you mentioned, yeah, it would be really cool to see Hillary Swank return. She's a much bigger star than when she initially did the next Karate Kid role.
Yeah.
I only actually just recently watched it because I had heard that, yes, technically it is taking place in the same universe, even though they haven't mentioned Julie, her character's name, yet. But yeah, Miyagi did teach her, and in that movie, Daniel's, I think, name dropped like 2 or 3 times. So yeah, so it's in the same universe, so that would be really cool to see that. And there was actually like a fan YouTube channel that I watched called Cobra Kai Theory, where the guy who does the channel, he was theorizing that Daniel and Julie would have probably already met before at Miyagi's funeral. So I think they could potentially address that. And if they need someone to actually fight against the guy's granddaughter, the kids probably couldn't take the role. We would probably need an adult woman to do it. So she would be an obvious choice.
I also, so when my wife mentioned that, I had the idea, I'm like, well, what if, she was like jealous that Miyagi like kind of maybe like Miyagi kind of ditched Julie, and she's jealous of Miyagi and Daniel's relationship that they had through the years past, and maybe she wants revenge on Daniel for something related to that. Who knows? It could be seasons, but yeah, I'll probably focus on Kreese, I'm guessing, most likely, and yeah, Kreese should just waited a few more days.
Oh, very cool, man. Very cool. So one last question that I had, and of course, if anything else you wanted to bring up, please feel free. But some of the press interviews that I've seen for both Ralph Macchio and William Zabka, where they've actually suggested that they think there could be a potential Cobra Kai universe launch. So like, interconnecting properties, additional shows or even movies if they go that route. So it would be kind of interesting, I feel. But at the same time, we look at other studios who have tried the Marvel Cinematic Universe route and have like not succeeded. Like a good example would be Tom Cruise and the Universal monster movie franchise, which kind of like bombed after The Mummy. So I guess what I would ask you is, do you like that idea if they could potentially get that off the ground, where maybe we see spin-off shows for certain characters, or maybe even revisit some of the events of the past, like maybe like the founding of Miyagi-Do karate?
That is interesting. I never really thought about that. Yeah, as far as having like it be on the scale of Marvel, I really think Marvel had lightning in a bottle with the cast that they had, and the timing. Just everyone was like perfect for their roles. Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, and I don't know if they'll be able to duplicate that. And as far as, I don't know if Cobra Kai, / Karate Kid has. I don't know if it has as much to pull from as Marvel, and if it has a big a fan base to have that, kind of lift off the ground and gain wings. Am I opposed to it? No. I think it'd be cool to have a spin-off series, maybe about Hawk, or, like Hawk and Dimitri go to college or something, and being roommates. I think that'd be cool. Or, maybe the founding of Miyagi-Do. I mean, Ralph Macchio always looks like he's about 35 to 40. So the guy drinks some magical elixir to look like he doesn't look 60. So and I was and I told my wife the other day, I was like, that Terry Silver is 1 year younger than Ralph Macchio, and she's like, he is? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, Ralph Macchio just always looks 20 to 30 years younger than he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, spin-off series, I think that is doable, and that would be cool to kind of see. Maybe, they already have the actors that played him. You could have Terry Silver and young Kreese, the young actors play them. Maybe starting Cobra Kai, and you could have like a young did they have young Johnny Lawrence? I think they did.
They did, yeah. So they had like a really young, like I think like a 5-year-old Johnny Lawrence, and then like
Okay.
a preteen. I want to say like 11 or 12-year-old. So the
Yeah.
one who first finds Cobra Kai. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and so maybe you could do them like, kind of establishing Cobra Kai or things like that, for a spinoff. Yeah, you have those actors, and they're fairly young, and they're not, they're not going to show too much age,
Mhm.
within the next 2 to 5 years, but yeah, that'd be ambitious, like you said. They tried to do the monster universe with Tom Cruise, and it totally failed, and they scrapped that. So, but I think they could do spin-off series.
Oh, absolutely, man. Very cool. Very cool. Well, that was all the questions I had for you tonight. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up or discuss, whether it's related to Cobra Kai, Karate Kid, or even any other like thing that interests you that you'd want to just chat about?
I always like to ask people, I know you got 2 kids and job, and I don't have kids, but so I have more time. But I was just curious if you're playing anything, playing any video games right now.
Oh, I absolutely would love to talk about that with you. In fact, we can even do a whole podcast just about that. But it's tough to find time. I mean, I'm also in the midst of grad school, so like
Oh, geez, you're so.
but I do have a downtime here and there, which is really cool. So the most recent thing I just picked up was the Cowabunga collection for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which has been a blast.
So did I.
Yeah, so I've been playing for PlayStation 4. Which one did I play last? Not Turtles in Time, the one I'm sorry, the NES version of the arcade game, which was really, really fun.
Okay, yeah. Turtles 2.
I played, Turtles 2, yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing them all. It's actually really been the only one I've played so far, but I want to try and like when I get more time to play all of them.
Okay, yeah, I'm making my way through part 1 at the moment. So, and that game's tough, but I'm glad that there's save states. So, I'm not 8 years old anymore. I'm not trying to beat it in one sitting. It's like when I'm 36, I have you have less time, and I don't have the patience to kind of restart. I'm like, I just like to save where I am, and then try to get further in the game. But yeah, did you play the Shredder's Revenge?
I haven't played that, but that one looks really cool.
So
too,
good.
So I want to try and pick that one up.
Really
Okay.
good.
Awesome.
I highly recommend that. So.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I definitely will try and pick that one up for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if there's nothing else for tonight, I think we can go ahead and wrap up. But Nathan, thank you so much for joining me. And again,
No problem.
Considering how much we have in common, it would be a no-brainer for me to have you back on for multiple times, just talk about any random thing we want to talk about. I think it'd be really fun and cool.
Great. It's just me and my wife here, and so I got time. Sometimes it's hard to get people on for, like with you got grad school, work, 2 kids, wife, and also you got to give time for. But yeah, time is something I got. So.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Always happy to be on if you need me for, as long as it's something, if it's something I'm passionate about and like, I can talk for hours about. So.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, don't worry. I'm not going to have you on for talking about like NFL or something like that. So
that's fine. I know a lot more about NFL than, not players or teams or stuff, but I know the game well enough that I can follow along. So.
Okay, very cool. Well, again, thank you, Nathan, for joining me tonight. This has been really great, and thank you to all the listeners. And you've been listening to the Casting for Fun podcast. Thanks again, everybody.